You're on CYInterview.
I'm Chris Yannick. Featured columnist Jay Bilstein is with me today on CYInterview. This week begins the NCAA Tournament. As always, we welcome back DraftKings Sportsbook Director, frequent CYInterview guest John Avello to talk about March Madness. John, how are you? Is there anything you're most looking forward to this year from the NCAA Tournament?
Yeah, playing the tournament, Chris. It was totally missed last year. And there's pent-up demand for it this year. I'm excited to have it back. From what I'm gathering from all our users and people I've known through the years, everybody's really, really excited to have this thing return.
Tell me what you'd like the public to know about what DraftKings has planned for the NCAA Tournament.
We're doing some things differently this year that haven't been done before, like a bracket contest. $100 to enter, $1 million to the winner, and another $1 million dispersed among the other winners from second place to $1,500. We're doing free pools, I should say, many. One is a survivor pool where the winner will get $1 million. And we're giving out random $100,000 prizes for people who just enter the contest for upsets that'll happen in the first two rounds. So we have some specials out there that anyone around the country can take advantage of, even if they're not in a jurisdiction that takes, sports betting currently. And I do say currently, Chris, because eventually we'll get to your area.
Oh, I know. It was read in the news that you're going to hopefully be entering the Nevada market soon. So we know this college basketball season has been different for the players with a shorter season, lots of canceled games and limited crowds. But was this college basketball season different in any way for the odd makers, including yourself?
Yeah, it was really different. It felt different. And, with some of the cancellations of the games, it kind of took momentum from teams, took momentum from bookmakers to gauge where those teams actually were. Did we have the right power rating on those teams? So it was a trying year. It was certainly a trying year for teams that didn't make the tournament. No Duke, no Kentucky, the mainstays in the tournament. So it just had a different feel to it, and but it doesn't at this point. At this point, all systems go. I do realize the tournament is in one state, pretty much one city, and I think I like the format, and I think it's going to do well.
Well, given all that you just talked about, do you think, given the special circumstances of the sports world over the last year and season, we're going to see some more upsets in the NCAA tournament this year?
I think we are. We normally see upsets in the tournament, and for some of those things I just mentioned, and maybe some of the teams not playing their full schedules this year, 30-plus games, maybe they're not as honed in and as sharp as they would have normally have been for the tournament had they have played all those games. So that's a possibility that may occur.
One of the main storylines in this tournament, of course, is whether or not Gonzaga can go undefeated, one of the number one seeds, and win the national title. What is your perspective on the Zags for the tournament?
26-0, great season. Not the toughest conference they play in, but they have won some games along the year against some good quality teams. Second round matchup, they get the winner of Oklahoma and Missouri. Not an easy game, but not a pretty tough second round matchup. Once they get by that, I think they're in pretty good shape. Then they'll have to play the other part of the West bracket where you have an Iowa team. You have an Oregon team, a Kansas team, a USC team. So, I think they do end up eventually winning the region, and then you will see if they can get it done when they start playing some of the higher quality teams on a night-to-night basis, pretty much, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to play. Once they get to the Final Four, you're going to meet four high-quality teams, which they haven't had to play those type of teams in back-to-back games.
So speaking of high-quality teams right now at this given moment, do you know, as far as the action goes, as far as which team will win the national championship, which team you're getting the most action on?
Well, if you're asking us where our exposure is, and that would be Gonzaga. And the reason it is because they were never much higher than 7 or 8 this year to 7 or 8 to 1 to win the whole thing. But they've sustained the spot, but one spot. And so therefore we've taken money on them at not only that higher price, but a price somewhat lower than that, maybe, 5-4 to 1, and currently where they're sitting at 2 to 1. So money has constantly come in on them. The second team that's taken the most money would be Michigan. You could have got them in the high 20s, low 30s at one point during the season. And then Illinois has taken some money because of the great run that they've been on over the last couple of weeks.
So speaking about double-digit seeds, teams like UCLA, Michigan State, Winthrop, Colgate, Utah State, UC Santa Barbara, even Georgetown, any of these teams stand out to you as your ultimate double-digit seed, or is there any other double-digit seed I haven't mentioned that you really like?
Well, you mentioned UCLA, Michigan State. That's two games playing each other in a play-in game. Michigan State has always been a staple in the tournament, coached well by Izzo. And then on the other side, Mick Cronin's turned around the UCLA program. And two teams no strangers to winning. But, it's going to make it difficult because now they're in this play-in game. One gets eliminated immediately. One has to go on, win another 6 games. The 5-12s are always interesting for people. You got Creighton playing Santa Barbara. You mentioned Santa Barbara's won 18 of the last 19. You've got Colorado playing Georgetown. Georgetown would never make the tournament out without winning their conference tournament. But, great defense got them there, and they're certainly being looked at for this particular game against Colorado. You got Winthrop, who's a 12 seed against Villanova. Villanova has had some injuries. Their star player, Gillespie, will not play in the tournament. Winthrop with a remarkable season. And your other 5-12 is Tennessee and Oregon State. Oregon State wins the Pac-12 conference tournament and going against an SEC, team that's just been kind of tournament bulletproof Tennessee. So this should be, quite a matchup between the 5-12, and there could be some other upsets certainly along the way.
Jay?
John, what's the possibility of DraftKings buying a resort casino like the Palms in order to plant its flag in Las Vegas?
That's not something I'm involved in. That's, business development decision. So you'd have to talk to those guys if that's something they're interested in. Sounds good to me if they decide to do it.
It certainly is a nice property, and it's adjacent to the Strip. It certainly would be a nice place to have a flagship. With that in mind, even though you're not on the business development side of things, what's your outlook from what you're seeing on your end of the business for growth over the next 3 to 5 years?
We're only touching the surface so far. We're in 14 states now. There's a lot more states that we're going to be in this year, 2021, more in 2022, and then 23. I think by 23, a lot of the states will be on board by then because they're seeing what this is all about and how the clientele of the state are engaged in sports betting, and of course, there's tax revenue to be made.
Any sense of the international market?
I think that's something the company has been dabbling in. Again, it's, biz dev decisions.
Gotcha. Chris?
John, so for this year, as you continue to be at DraftKings, what's it like for you being away now from the craziness of being a former Las Vegas Strip sportsbook director and not being near that craziness as much anymore?
Well, I kind of miss it, but I'm still in it. And the reason I say that, Chris, is, I'm still in town. I work from town. We do have some bricks and mortar locations around the country. I'm involved in those bricks and mortar locations with a team. I travel to some of those places at times. So I'm still involved somewhat in the retail aspect of the business, which I kind of enjoy. That's face-to-face interaction. On the other side, you can't take away from the digital piece because that's the growth of the business. That'll continue to be the growth of the business, and that's where more of the business is than anywhere else.
One quick last question for you on that. Interesting to note there was a lot of discussion this week. People were saying, obviously DraftKings is going to have some very cool original bracket contests that you mentioned at the top of the CY interview. But there were a lot of people in general saying because of COVID-19, because people are not in office as much, there won't be as many office pools, but there'll be more people just betting on the games in these states that they can. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we may see a year where there's a trend of people just betting more on individual games than filling out a bracket?
Well, we're giving them that bracket option, so we should capture all that business for the people that can't go to the office. They can play with us right from the comfort of their home. Yeah, there's going to be betting on the games themselves. There's going to be betting on the futures because that will stay up. There will be betting on teams to make the Final Four, to make the 8. There'll be some game props, odd even, team totals, how many points teams are going to score in the course of the game. You're going to have your first half and second half, and of course the in-game wagering is going to be huge. So there's still plenty of options out there, and when you bet on a digital app, it's easy. Everything's in front of you. You don't have to wait in line. You make your own decisions, and so therefore it's easy and convenient.
So for featured columnist Jay Billstein, DraftKings Sportsbook Director John Avello, and CY Interview, I'm Christian